Is Kashmir becoming Palestine? On August 5th, India revoked Kashmir's semi-autonomy, deployed thousands of additional armed forces, confined 4 million people to their homes, and cut them off from each other and the outside world by blocking their internet, cell phones, and landlines. People started to draw parallels between Israel and Palestine and India and Kashmir. But are the two that similar? Both Kashmiris and Palestinians were promised self-determination by the UN in 1948. Palestinians were meant to get a state of their own, and Kashmiris were meant to have a referendum to decide whether they wanted to be part of Pakistan or India. But neither happened, and both Palestinians and Kashmiris have been struggling for independence ever since. Palestine today is made up of the West Bank. This chunk of land home to 3 million Palestinians, east of Israel and the Gaza Strip. Since 1967, Israel has occupied the West Bank, and more than 60% of it is under Israeli military control. But more than 600,000 Israelis have also settled in the West Bank on Palestinian land, which is illegal according to the UN. The highly guarded settlements have led to big problems. The movement of Palestinians is restricted in their own territory in order to keep the settlers safe. Many have been cut off from their own agricultural lands, and Israel has seized even more land to build settler-only roads. The West Bank is very different than India-administered Kashmir because it's considered an occupied territory. And while it's under Israeli control, it isn't technically part of Israel. Kashmir has been part of India since 1948. Kashmiris are Indian citizens, but one of the conditions of Kashmir acceding to India was that it would remain semi-autonomous, and that there would be property laws that would protect Kashmir's demography. But India just revoked this. Article 370 being tossed means that Indians from anywhere in India can now buy property and settle in Kashmir. And just like in the case of Israel, encouraging Israelis to settle, some BJP leaders are doing the same. Kashmiris say that the settlers may be used to alter the demography of Muslim-majority Kashmir to a Hindu majority. So the idea that Kashmir could be becoming similar to the West Bank isn't that far off. Both Palestinians and Kashmiris have tragic histories. In 1948, between 700,000 and 900,000 Palestinians were forced to flee their homes. Today, 1 in 3 refugees in the world are Palestinians. India and Pakistan have fought 3 wars over Kashmir, and they left 70,000 people dead. While there's a military occupation in the West Bank, India-administered Kashmir has 700,000, yes, 700,000 armed forces stationed in this valley, and it's considered the most militarized place in the world. Both populations have to endure the daily burden of military checkpoints. And while Palestinians face extreme restrictions to their movement, the Indian government regularly places Kashmir under curfew and blocks the internet. Both the Israeli army and Indian armed forces are notorious for using excessive force to crush any type of dissent. Israel is known for its nighttime raids and arrests, and has even been known to detain children, mostly for throwing stones. Under the administrative detention law, it can hold people based on secret evidence without trial. Kashmiris are subjected to a similar law which allows detention without trial. It's called the Public Safety Act. More than 8,000 Kashmiris have disappeared since 1989, and there are allegations of rape and torture by Indian army soldiers. Most recently, they've used pellet guns to control crowds. More than 1,000 people have been blinded, and tens of thousands have been injured. Repressive tactics are not all that India and Israel share. Hindu nationalists have long admired Zionists and Israel, and while they have very different ideologies, they do share common ground. They both believe in an ethno-religious link to an ancient past, which they believe gives them claim to land and supremacy over other ethnic groups. For Zionists, it's their claim to Israel, the birthplace of Judaism and home to Jewish holy sites. And for Hindu nationalists, it's to purify India by containing Muslim influence. Kashmir, the only Muslim-majority state in India, is at the heart of a nationalist vision for a Hindu India. And this mutual admiration shows. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, have a bromance. And they are partners in defense. Israel is supplying India with the latest military technology, weaponry, and even training. So while the struggles of Palestinians and Kashmiris are fundamentally very different, when people say India's decision to revoke Article 370 was straight out of an Israeli playbook, they may not be wrong.